All right, hello YouTube. This is Brian again, and just want to come to you today or tonight and talk about some things. I want to just share my struggles and be real and honest with everybody, and just document my journey with this Q50. And I've already shared a lot about my experience. About being tuned with Joe Tech, and then a lot of the things that I encountered, negative and good. The goods and the bads and now I'm switched to a different tuner, and it's Hussein at Racebox in Houston. And so I'm just going to share how things are happening. I'm happy with the tune, but just want to share, events as I go forward. Playing around with the car, tuning the car, putting more performance parts on it, and just seeing how much fun it is and how much I like it. So again, this is just a part of my journey. And as we have seen in past videos, I have moved from regular street tires to Nitto NT 555R2 version, the newest version of this tire, and had high expectations for it to give me like loads of traction. But now that I've transitioned from a softer tune to a quicker tune, or not necessarily more boost, but I think actually a little bit less boost, but just how it's running, the car's running better. And now I'm seeing traction issues again, unfortunately. When the boost comes on, it comes on really really hard and really really fast and at low speeds. With these small turbos, it's relatively 12 to 17 miles an hour, and that's not very fast. And when you have 500 foot-pounds of torque or pound-feet of torque, and it hits that hard, I mean, it's hard for a lot of normal sized tires to be able to gain traction. But anyways, well, here I'm going to just share what I did. I was on a business trip about 45 minutes away from my house, and that opens me up to different roads and different areas, maybe with a little less a police presence. So I found during my hotel travel and my photography, I found just a really good road, and I was up late at night, and so I went out and ran the car about 12:30. And I did encounter some police, but I didn't get arrested or anything. But luckily I avoided my run, and that was run number 2. And so that's where it'll skip in my files here. And I just want to show you and share my data logs. And so I data logged, and I also dragged. I didn't get to shoot video again. The video just wasn't working on my phone really really well. So you're just going to have to trust me. But again, kind of disappointing. I'll just share the bad part of it. Kind of disappointing. I got my latest launch control from Hussein, and I think it's like my version 2 or 3 of my launch control, and it's just not working out very very well. So it's not progressing like I thought it would be. It doesn't mean that it's not going to get there. It just depends on how we're going to get there. So my draggy times were in the 4.4 time frame, 4.4 seconds, 4.1, and definitely not down at least in the low fours, like 4.0441. That's where I mean, it's got to be. So really disappointing. Had my drag radials on, but they were at 32 psi because I was out of town, and then my drag radials are on backwards because I'm trying to just balance out the tread wear and doing all these 0 to 60s, and end up just boiling the tires off, or and I'm just trying to make these tires last. So here I'm just going to show you my data logs real quick, and I'll just touch base on each one of them and what information I saw. Stick with me if you're into this information and you want to follow me again on my journey. Appreciate it. You might find some cool information or something helpful. If this is not helpful to you, then bye bye, and I'll maybe catch me on another video. I'll try to have some different videos and some more driving and stuff and racing. But yeah, so let me just touch base now with the data logs. Okay, so here in this file 1, which I labeled run 1, this was my launch control 0 to 60. I just want to say that I had found a really good flat street, and it was a really good concrete. Everyone's heard me talk about different concrete before, and I get really involved in the type of concrete I'm on. This wasn't black asphalt this time. It was good, kind of a white, creamy and it had a lot of, I mean, it had a lot of grab to it and good traction. And so there's no excuses for not being able to put the traction down. So I just want to make that clear. This was a good street. It was about 80 degrees out, and everything was, just was a pretty good situation. Yeah, but here we can see, I've picked out a couple of details. I picked out how much throttle I'm in, from 0 to 100% throttle. That's how you know how much of a throttle I'm into. And then I've got my RPMs there, and that's the light gray line. And my LC is set about 22,288. That's when I jump up from 0 to change to 1 mile per hour there. And so that's when the car starts rolling. And then I didn't list the mile per hour on this one, but it's definitely before 20 miles per hour when I start breaking the wheels loose. And it doesn't break them right when I get on it. It rolls out probably, when the first, probably say 5 to 7 feet or maybe 10 feet. And then boost just kicks in hard, and it just loses traction. And like I've said before, that's about when I'm hitting close to about 500 torque, is when I'd estimate, and it just tires can't hold that. So in all these diagrams I'm going to show you, it's all pretty similar, but instead of just roasting the tires and just laying, tearing up my tires, I just try to back out of it and get back in it. But it's not really, I have never been successful in this car yet being able to do that. And trying to get off it and get on it, it just upsets the car. Not that it gets out of line or anything. It just doesn't jump back into the throttle right, and you can just tell you've really blown your run. So here, where I have wheel spin, I tried to drop it, and it's hard to modulate the pedal too, in this car. So it's 69%, 66%, and 45%, and then it's still, when I get back on it, it's having some trouble, and then I just jump down to 0.01 throttle, and then I get back in it. And by then the run's just, it's ridiculous running. And again, it's 4.4, 4.5. And then I've got the end mile per hour there at 60 mile per hour, where I go ahead and stay in it. But, it just didn't work out this time. Okay, here it's pretty simple and straightforward. I've got there where it says 0 to 1 mile per hour. That's where the car starts to accelerate from 0 to 1 mile per hour. And then you can see by this manifold pressure chart here, it starts at 16.2, it goes to 16.8, and that's between first gear and then second gear, 15.5, and in the middle of the meat of that, up to 18.6, and then in the shift. And then on the other ones, I show just a little bit more information, but then there's the 60 mile per hour mark. So that is the manifold gauge pressure. All right, so now we're going to move to the next data log. Okay, so here we can see a reoccurring theme, and it's basically wheel spin. But, you've got to give it, in my opinion, 3 or 4 tries to call it a good attempt. But again, launch control 0 to 60. Similar launch RPMs, 2,338 RPM. Car gets rolling 1 mile per hour there. Then I get pretty big wheel spin, and the car shuts in or shifts at 4,338 RPM. I think this is where I had it in the automatic mode, and the car just gets really upset with wheel spin. It's always hard to remember if I exactly what I was running and how I was doing it, but because I tried different things while the first one doesn't work, and then I try to do something a little bit different for the second run. But as you can see, I jump in and out of the throttle and back out of it and back in it. First gear, so massive wheel spin, and then that's before 19 miles an hour, so that's like 15 to 17 miles per hour, or maybe even a little lower than that. So second gear, I get back in it and all the way up to 6,400 RPM, and then it shifts, and I'm right there at 60 miles per hour if you look at all my little numbers there. So again, not a very successful run, no faster than 4.4. So another disappointing run. Okay, so before I jump too far into this next file here, The last two was jump from run 1 to run 3. So it's going to tell you about run 2. I'm sitting there with my rev limiter pegged down and revving up and the brake to the floor. And I look over and there is a police officer coming down the side road right there with his headlights on me. And I'm like, whoops. And I immediately jump out of it. Didn't launch the car, let it just idle back down, and then pulled forward and drove off and turned around and came back. So I thought that was a little bit of a freaky situation. But yeah, so that's why run 2 didn't get recorded. Okay, so launch control 0 to 60, run 3. This is the manifold pressure. You can see this information here. I get a little bit more detail as I go into creating these files. 0 to 1 mile per hour, first gear, second gear, all the way up to 60. And there are your different manifold pressures, so you can compare. They're all very similar, and so there's some peaks and some small or lower areas, but they do mimic each other pretty closely. But yeah, starts out at 10.9 psi and goes up to 19.1 psi, up there just past 60 miles per hour. Okay, getting close to the end. So this is the fourth run. I did 5, one got aborted, so this is the next one to the last. So run number 4, and launch control, held that on longer this time, just make sure it was running good and it was hitting its rev limiter. So 2,250 RPMs, 100% throttle, and again, just got wheel spin. So, first gear, abort and get in and get out, get in, get out, no big, can't get traction. Ran that up to 5,188 RPM and then stayed in it, and that was just short of 25 miles per hour, and then ran it out to 5,464 RPMs, where most of the time the car makes up its own mind and makes its own shift. So you can see there 37%, 22%, and then second gear all the way up to 60. So that was run number 4. So again, wheel spin and slow 0 to 60. Run number 4, manifold pressure. Just look at the numbers. Starts out at a negative point, or 0.1, negative 0.1, and then 0 mile per hour to 1 mile per hour, first, second, third gear. 60 miles per hour from 12.2 psi up to 19.39 psi, and then 15 and about 18 in the center. Okay. Last run finally. Here I switch it up and I foot brake 0 to 60 to see if I can nail down a faster time. And I think I remember something about mentioning launch control getting in the way of foot braking. And it's better, if I want to go foot braking, then he'll just cancel out the launch control. But I foot braked this time thinking I could maybe do a little better, and it didn't work out this time. So still in about the 4.4, 4.5. 0 mile per hour, you can see I step in at 100% throttle. It's not configured like the launch control and the other data logs that I showed, but I got a lot of wheel spin. Again, all these were without launch control, and I stepped down to 0.78 throttle and a 0.47 throttle, and even went down further than that and trying to get back in it, and did roll back in it and got up to 60 miles per hour. Shift points were 5,362 RPMs and 6,300 RPMs. This was probably my faster time. This was probably the one where I got closest to 4.4. But yes, still disappointing. I need to be at 4.1 or below to be happy. And then it'd be really, really cool to get into the 3.9. So yes. Okay, so glad you made it to the end, if you made it to this part. As you can see, and I don't know if I clarified this, my launch control, Hussein, has been lowering the boost down in first and second gear, and we can clearly see 11.9, and it's building up, and second gear and then third gear. So 11.9, 14.8, 15.4, and it's growing back up in boost pressure. So obviously he's turned it down, and it's still not helping with blowing the tires off or spinning the tires. Spinning ain't winning. So and also too, it's just roasting your tires, your $350 tires. So that's not cool either. So, but yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you've liked my content, maybe learned something about data logs and the importance of looking at data logs. And it can be really, really cool if you're, I guess into data. But all right, we'll catch me on another video. And I look forward to chatting with you again and showing you more footage. All right, have a good night. Bye.